Ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on this exhilarating exploration of the law as a living force, a robust yet intricate framework that governs even the most intimate aspects of our existence, let us abandon the notion that legal practice is, a sterile, exercise of logic. Instead, we dive into what they call headlock, into a realm where tunily creative and even legal craftsmanship intertwine. I will remind you of what Oliver Wendell Holmes said. He said, illuminating in terms of his wisdom, he said, the law is the calling of thinkers. The law is not simply a monument of precedents and prose. It is a breathing, force that shapes, the flavor of our lives. So the skeptics may scoff, what is this guy doing? But you may scoff in terms of dismissing the law as a labyrinth of arcane terms and impenetrable codes. Yet I challenge this perception. Law is not an ivory tower by way of an abstraction. It is a mortar binding society in terms of structure, influencing everything that form our morning cup of coffee to the sumptuous delicacies crafted by master chefs. Justice Louis Brandeis reminds us that if we are wound guide with bold minds, we will venture into the confluence of law and cuneal delight, where the statutes safeguard every bite, ensuring the harmony of safety, creativity, and even commerce. Now imagine this. The sizzling aroma of seared steak, for example, wafts from the basting chicken or fish, for example. Beneath this tantalizing scene lies the framework of food safety regulations, rules governing temperature, for example, or even hygiene and contamination prevention. So these laws are guardians of our well-being, protecting us against unseen perils in terms of everyday, chefs becoming a steward of public health, bound by legal duty as much as culinary passion. Now consider the savory fusion of intellectual property, for example, and innovation. In terms of recipes, in terms of while probably generating not comparable, but may contain creative expressions that actually merit protection. A unique recipe book, for example, lays out a signature blend in terms of storytelling and technique that becomes eligible for our legal shields. So we could even argue in terms of trade secrets. Some of you are aware of KFC. Why have they, thrived for a long time? So as we are guided by these ratios of a legendary, source of clandestine methods in terms of benevolent desert operational mechanics in terms of how to comprehend food and gestures of good health, we remain treasures in terms of safeguarding by way of contracts and by way of confidential agreements in terms of what I've just propounded. So at the heat of this professional kitchen, for example, we could argue in terms of employment law, in terms of action, in terms of mandating safe environments, in terms of fair treatment, and in terms of season pragmatism approaches in terms of different arenas that would actually augur in our lives. We could argue in terms of proper training and equipment, in terms of prevention of accidents, for example, in terms of wage regulations to ensure, for example, fair compensations for those who bring what they call gastronomic visions into life. So those are some of the issues that you could probably talk about. The law also serves as the discernment in terms of a palette of truth and also augur in terms of transparency. Okay, and that's something very, very important that we could talk about. And labeling laws require, allergens to be disclosed, knowledge that can actually mean life or even death to consumers. And this becomes substantively important in terms of some of you have heard of those cases of Denago versus Stevenson. You've seen some of those cases that have played out in terms of food, as it were. So accurate, for example, ingredients in terms of upholding honesty, in terms of commerce, in terms of deceptive practices that have to do with sour trust can actually be fundamentally important. We could also argue in terms of environmental stewardship, in terms of ingredients, in terms of rich legal recipes, in terms of waste management, which you heard what happened in Kateza. Some of the things in terms of regulations that call for responsible, disposal of food remnants, while even heating inspections that ensure kitchens meet, sanitation standards that ensure that every standard in terms of tapestry of a society becomes thriving and well-being for our health. So ideally, in the grand feast of knowledge, we discover that the law, much as like cooking or even the balance of art or science, is a system of logic tempered by human experiences in terms of, just like Holmes so eloquently noted, that the life of the law has not been logic, it has been experience. The law listens, evolves, and even adapts, So what recipes are refined through trial and triumph. So my dear explorers, through thought, let us navigate this your banquet of knowledge intricacies with curiosity, with wit. Together we shall sever in terms of profoundness, in terms of unlocking the subtle or even release dynamic interplay that occur in our lives in terms of day-to-day relationships. Let me just take you through something that I'm going to do for you in terms of wonderful fish here. Listen, this is tilapia. Those of you who know tilapia from Lake Victoria, and I'm going to make a seasoned tilapia for you. And this is how we start. We do by cutting it like this. Okay, you must have a good knife. Okay, so you do the blends inside. Yeah, I'm gonna do that as a demonstration for only one. And you know that even this so-called doctorate of law is a guy who goes back home and does the cooking by himself. Without the aid of any other person. You have to learn to do the things. I was in Europe, and these are the things the guys do in Europe. And you don't have to wait for a maid or to wait for a special chef to do the kind of things that we're talking about. You see, so after doing that, because there's so many, I'm just going to demonstrate using one. Obviously, for purposes of hygiene, my hands must be clean from the word go. They are clean. I washed them, and then I should have gloves. But for for questions of because I had to touch a number of things, I decided to avoid them. And then after cutting, I go for this guy here. This is called aromat. And then I do place some aromat here, as you can see. So I'm placing aromat, but ideally this aromat should be able to go in these, pieces of holes, as you can see, that I've just made, okay, the cuttings, yeah? And let the aromat go there, okay? Do as much as is, substantively sufficient. You do that, okay? And after doing the aromat, you then go to this guy here, okay? This guy here is called heat paprika, okay? Then you do the heat paprika, open it nicely, okay? And then do a little bit of it. Okay, you see the same thing as I'm doing here? I'm now putting the heat paprika, but don't put too much, because if you do too much, it's gonna cause a lot of souring. Okay, so you make sure you do a little bit of that, and then after that you go to this guy here. This guy here is called Reiko spices, and it's also incredible. And then you open the Reiko again, put a little bit of it. As you can see, I'm putting the Reiko here, yeah, and I'm doing the same thing. Make sure the Reiko goes there nicely. Yeah, make sure the Reiko goes there nicely. And this is none other than Dr. himself doing the thing. So it's just important for purposes of understanding and comprehending. And make sure what you're doing is neat, okay? After that, you put this guy here. This is called mixed spices. You see this guy here? So let's do the mixed spices. We open the mixed spices, yeah? And again, you put a little bit of that mixed spices here. Make sure, as I said, don't put too much. Make sure it's substantively enough for purposes of, savoring and creating that aroma that you're going to enjoy. Okay, are you seeing that? Okay, and after that, you now go to some salt. Don't forget salt. Now, salt has to be done with a lot of, carefulness. Not too much, not too little, but fair enough. Yeah, fair enough to make sure that it, creates that salty taste that you may want. Okay, I think you can see that. So after that, after I have done my guy very well like that, I've seasoned it with everything that I want, and then I put it in this particular container right here. The idea being that I could go through this, but then after I've lit my stove or my gas cooker, I have made sure that I have put my oil there. Make sure you use oil. I prefer vegetable oil because it's much more nutritious in terms of your body. And then I give it time, maybe about 5 to 10 minutes. But in the interest of time and purpose of the video, I then get this guy, okay? Before that, I should put some little, for those of you who like, this is what my mother did one time for me. And man, I licked my fingers, to almost nothing. This is now, baking powder, okay? So you put baking powder or wheat for that purpose on this, and then you smear it all around, yeah? Make sure it's smeared all around nicely, as you can see, nicely. Okay, and then after that you say, okay, my guy is ready. So I put here. So I'll do the same for that. Mutatis mutandis, yeah. And then for purposes of making sure everything is well neat. And then when this guy begins to get ready, I get hold of him and do that. Okay, put him there, right? Now the idea here is that the oil should be substantive enough, yeah, and enough to cover the entire thing. So once again, that is something I wanted to share with you. And for disposables, in terms of disposing, I have three baskets here. One, and this is what happens in Europe. You have to learn to separate the rubbish. You have to have one for the strictly non-biodegradables, and then you have the herbs, another one for maybe plastics and maybe bottles. And then when you're disposing, each one should go in different places, because that's important when it comes to disposing, rubbish disposal. You may read some of our books about garbage and the law, and then other books that we have at lubogo.blog and sugenesblueup.com. So my name once again is Isaac Christopher Lubogo, and God bless you and thank you for your attention. Let's enjoy the meal. We're going to have this, and it's going to be great for you. Amen and amen. Thank you.